And man, it's going to be fascinating to track over the next couple of months. I want to shift to the next topic because this is a movie that we are extremely fired up for, but I want to ask you guys whether you think they're going to get over the hump to get general audiences excited for.
I had the same thought. That's funny.
This is David Fincher's film Mank. And again, okay, right there, I'm sold. It's David Fincher's film. So I'm going. Then you tell me it's about the making of Citizen Kane. Okay, great. Even more so, I'm in. But it's a black and white Netflix film. And what it reminds me of all of a sudden, because the new trailer for it dropped, and I think it looks fantastic. And I think it's going to be an amazing film. But I'm looking over Gabe's shoulder and I see Alfonso Cuarón's Roma. And I'm thinking about Scorsese's Irishman. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder if this is going to be a movie that's going to be able to break through and appeal to people who aren't, quote unquote, film buffs who want to see Gary Oldman playing Herman Mankiewicz.
Yeah.
So what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I'll tell you, I have the exact answer because I had this happen to me today at work. So generally speaking, I work for a morning show in DC, and when a big trailer comes out for a film, like an Avengers Endgame or an Avengers movie, or even Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, the movie we're going to be getting to in our show in a little bit because it's Chadwick Boseman's final film performance. When these trailers come out, I have a thing that clicks in my mind and goes, all right, you know what? We got to get that trailer on the air immediately. This is a big deal. Fans are going to be excited about this. We want to show our viewers the new trailers that have come out because not everybody's in tune with online and Twitter like we are. They don't see the tweets and the movies trailers come out like we do. When Mank came out this morning, it came out within a reasonable time of my morning show. I could have easily cut it and got it on my air. I didn't think it was right. I didn't think it was a movie that my audience I didn't think it was a film that was going to excite local morning television. Right. And I thought to myself about that, and that's the exact question that you're asking, Sean, is that does this movie have a general audience built into it, or is it for film nerds? And I'm not saying general audiences can't be film nerds.
No,
but
sure.
that I did make a decision this morning in my mind that I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is do I need to do a segment on Mank? I'll do a segment on this trailer or that trailer, but Mank didn't seem like a movie I wanted to do a segment on. But for me, I can't wait to see it. I'm excited about it.
I'll even go one step further. This is what's killing some of these movies to this extent. If David Fincher's Mank was coming to your art house theater and you made a night of it to go like, all right, we're going to go check it out. Reviews have been solid. It's David Fincher. Hey, I like his movies. Let's get dinner and we're going to go see Mank. And then you're in it. You're there. You're going to watch it. But on a streaming service, people put on the first 5 or 10 minutes and then they're on their phone or something else happens and they turn it off and they never go back to it. How many people did you guys hear from Roma, who were like, oh yeah, I watched like 15, 20 minutes of it. I couldn't get into it.
And Roma's a very slow, quiet movie too. Yeah,
for sure. And so, I mean, that's a danger for a movie like this too.
It'll be interesting. I mean, it's on Netflix, and everyone's stuck at home. So there's the chance that, it hits. And if I think Fincher has enough of a filmography to excite people, if they're, if it's the general audience that maybe doesn't know exactly what he's done, if they're presented with what he has done in those titles, maybe that works for them. One thing though, that I think is interesting that I just don't know that it's going to connect with that audience is it's not just that it's a movie about movie making and it's shot in black and white. It's very much, from what I gathered from the trailer, shot like a movie was shot in the 1930s. Like the way that the edits are working.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. The way, and it's just the trailer. Maybe they mix some stuff up, but even the camera movements, I think it still works, and I trust Fincher to, still make an entertaining film. I don't think he's ever made a film that wasn't entertaining, but I'm curious how much of that will just sort of reduce it down to the very sort of fanatic level film buffs. But
it's an interesting thing because that's where, because I'm an entertainment reporter in the DC area, and and you have to have these conversations with yourself about what you think is important to you and what you think is important to the audience, right? And like Fincher's Mank is like Christmas for me, right? It's David Fincher, it's Citizen Kane, it's Oldman, but there's no way I'm not thinking in my mind, I don't think general audiences care, because Citizen Kane
breaks my heart.
Citizen Kane came out in 1941. It's 79 years old. Yeah. And I listen, David Fincher, Fight Club 7, he's Gone Girl, he's made very big films. I just don't see somebody like on a Saturday night going, I'm going to put on a black and white movie about the making of Citizen Kane. And it's a tough sell, but that's where our jobs become important.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like the what we do for a living is try to excite people about movies and things. So to be honest with you, I probably should do a segment on Mank because to me, I find it interesting. But I just feel like it's a hard sell. It is a very tough sell.
What about Trial of Chicago 7? Did that play at all?
I don't feel crazy buzz on that. Do you feel the buzz on that? I feel like that
I'm afraid it's because of Netflix. I think the streaming giants have a really hard time because when something's in a movie theater, there's a window where you're paying attention to it. You're talking about the box office. You're talking about the reviews. There are stages that keep the film in the conversation.
Premieres, red carpets, interviews that go viral, or I don't
think that happens with a streaming service movie. I think it drops and you watch it or you don't, and it goes away.
But I will say,
it's interesting.
We're kind of anticipating the negative or the bummer of like, man, people didn't appreciate a movie that we're all, I guess, assuming is going to be great. Yeah, it has no reason not to be.
We can't wait to see it.
And we're kind of focusing on the negative of like, man, not enough people are going to see this, which is probably the case. Is probably what's going to happen. On the flip side of that, to kind of turn it into a positive, they're probably not expecting, 500 million people to see this.
Sure.
And so we can sort of be excited in the fact that we live in a world where David Fincher was given enough money to make an art house movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he probably didn't have to make any, he didn't have to cut himself short in any, compromise in any way. So and
Fincher's been on the ground with Netflix for a while. I mean, the House of Cards element. I mean, he's
Mindhunter.
I'm almost certain that Fincher or somebody in Fincher's camp is the one that developed the aspect ratio that you generally see on Netflix. There's a certain aspect ratio that House of Cards has that I think was designed specifically for Netflix and streaming at home.
Like shifting between TVs and mobile devices or something. Yeah. I'm sure they did some,
I just find it fascinating because it's so weird. I this morning when that trailer came out, I texted you guys immediately because I was... But you're the only ones I texted about. I mean, I didn't text, it's one of those weird things where, and that's the thing, I don't want this to come across as oh, we're snarky movie critics.
Yeah, no.
General audiences, won't watch this. That's not what we're saying. It's more of we just understand that this is very niche. This is a very specific, very niche thing that Fincher's playing with here. It doesn't have broad appeal.
Right.
I don't know. It's an interesting thing.
Question for you guys. Is a black and white movie about movie making, that's about making one of the most seminal films in film history, in Hollywood history, is this the most Oscar baity movie that Netflix has ever produced?
Yeah,
is that really just the goal?
Feel like it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The checklist to go down it is so insane.
That's just what they were going for. They're not worried about 200 million people seeing this. They're like, we need Academy voters to see this.
Yeah. Actually, Gabe, that's actually a brilliant point because you make a movie like this. That's actually a really good point because Gabe might have hit something that I didn't, that I think is actually kind of genius. Because maybe they intended this film to not. Maybe they were like, you know what? We'll cut our losses. It won't get 75 million households like the old guard did in the first 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But we'll have that nominated for 12 Oscars this year. Yeah. Fincher, direct. I mean, you're right. It's almost like they can flex with a great film like this and cut their losses on it not being a general audience film.
I will say though, if they come out the weekend after and they're like, we had 200 million people watch this, I'll give the Jake, but did it? But did they really?
Well, I listen, here's the thing. I've been on record. I'm not the biggest Citizen Kane fan. I revisited it recently. I like the film. I admire it. And we're going to get into Rebecca today because I watched Hitchcock's Rebecca over the weekend, which I think is a better version of Citizen Kane. But I am very interested to see how this plays. It is, like you said, the old style. Gabe, it's funny you bring that up because I actually noticed, I've been watching a lot of older films recently, the way audio sounded in older films when people talked, there was almost like a what's the word I'm looking for? Not like a sound quality to older voices that had like a crunchy sound to it, like the way old audio sounds in movies. It's like I don't know how to explain the word I'm looking for. but there was a set, like if you listen to old dialogue, like Jimmy Stewart in Rear Window, or their dialogue sounds a little like a little crispy with like a little crunch to it, and then it gets cleaner as cinema history goes on. The audio in the Mank trailer sounded like old school audio. I don't know if that was my headphones or if Fincher did that on purpose, but going back to the point about making the film look like a old school film, those like really interesting edits, like the circle wipes that they were doing with like the cuts in between, it was very old school. I wonder if he messed with the audio at all. I want to know.
It's interesting.
Knowing Fincher.
Yeah, I'm sure. And one thing I had never, I've never thought about, now I want to look up, is when we talk a lot about when filming turned digital from like the visual aspect, but I wonder when they stopped recording analog audio and started recording digital audio, because I'm sure that sound comes from that analog process. Whether it's old movies with like a phonograph or something versus some tape.
That's
interesting. And there is, by the way, a strange irony about watching the Mank trailer, which was shot digitally, and seeing film cameras in there, which is very interesting to me, because if Fincher was ever going to return to 35, this is the one I thought he would have returned to it on. But I will say this, because I can admit when I'm wrong, it looks like film. That trailer, but you can manipulate, you can add grain, and black and white really helps you. I think black and white really kind of like, the look of 35 black and white is just monumental. I mean, and I think that there's a way, if you shoot black and white digitally, you can still kind of try to achieve that look. And I think Fincher's well versed enough in digital to understand that. So.